Hello and welcome back to another video going through a past paper section A walkthrough. We're looking this time at, again, Economics A, but we're looking at a macro paper, paper 2, the national and global economy. This is an A-level paper as opposed to an AS level paper, meaning that it covers a range of content from both low sixth and upper sixth, year 12, year 13, grade 11, grade 12. So depending on what year you're in, this could be applicable to you, but it's going to be most applicable for those people who are in their final year of school. So yeah, I'm going to go through the section A, which is the shorter style questions, go through explanations of why some of the points are incorrect, as well as why obviously the answers are correct. And hopefully you find it useful. So without further ado, section A. Okay, so we've got 30 minutes, or your advice spend 30 minutes. Use the data to support your answers where relevant. You may annotate and include diagrams in your answer. So I'm definitely going to do those things. So question 1. The trade deal known as the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, is designed to eliminate or reduce trade barriers between the European Union and Canada. It is estimated that it will increase trade by 20% and boost EU GDP by 12 billion euros. Which one of the following is most likely to decrease as a result of CETA? Okay, so we've got a few options. Economic growth in EU countries, exports from EU countries to Canada, imports from Canada to EU countries, or tariffs on European exports to Canada. Okay, now the whole point of forming things like comprehensive economic and trade agreement is to eliminate or reduce trade barriers. So basically what you're trying to do is increase trade between those two countries, right? Increase trade by 20%. So if we have an increase in exports for either country, that's going to contribute to increasing the value of net trade, which should increase economic growth. Exports from EU countries to Canada, that's likely to increase. Imports from Canada to EU countries, again, likely to increase. So the only likely option is D, tariffs on European exports to Canada. If type of trade agreement they have, most likely they're going to reduce trade barriers like tariffs, quotas, for example, and so tariffs on European exports to Canada should be decreased. Okay, with reference to the theory of comparative advantage, explain how CETA may increase the GDP of both the EU and Canada. Okay, so comparative advantage is where a country specializes in the production of a good that they have a low opportunity cost in. So firstly, I'm going to write that. Okay, so it's different from absolute advantage. A country may have absolute advantage in the production of both goods or services or whatever, but comparative advantage is a theory espoused by someone called David Ricardo, and it's basically saying that we should specialize in the good or service in terms of production for the one that we have the lower opportunity cost in. So it says, with reference to the theory of comparative advantage, explain how CETA may increase the GDP of both the EU and Canada. Okay, so with reference to, now let's just go back up and just check the information. Okay, so it says here it is estimated that it will increase trade by 20% and boost EU GDP by 12 billion euros. Okay, well, the extract, it is said it will boost trade by 20%. This is exports. It will increase the value of net trade and he contributing to economic growth. All right, quite a wordy answer. Probably you could write it more simply than that, but yeah, just going through the answer. So we'll leave that there. Now, the key thing here is that I have made reference in my answer to the data, right? So I've referenced the extract, so 20%, with reference to the theory of comparative advantage. Explain how CTA may increase the GDP of both EU and Canada. Okay, so it's going to increase trade by 20%. That's going to influence both the EU and Canada. I'll go back to my original blue color. Oh, no, a different blue color, but it doesn't matter. Okay, which one of the following would most likely cause an aggregate demand to increase? So a fall in government spending, no. Net trade, no. Marginal propensity to consume, no. So the answer must be D. The reason why it's not government spending is because AD, the formula is C plus I plus G plus exports minus imports, or net trade. So if government spending decreases, then AD is going to fall. If net trade falls, then AD is going to fall. If the marginal propensity to consume falls, that's going to influence consumption, that's going to fall. If the marginal propensity to save falls, then that should increase the value of the marginal, decrease the value of marginal propensity to withdraw. And one of the ways to calculate the multiplier is 1 divided by MPW, and therefore this should increase AD. Okay, draw an aggregate demand aggregate supply diagram to illustrate the likely impact of the rise in interest rates on the price level and real output. Okay. So here we have price level. Here we have real GDP, or real output, sorry, as it's referred to, but real GDP is the same thing. I'm going to draw a Keynesian LRAS curve. I'm going to draw my original equilibrium point, and I'm going to make sure that I label them. So that's Y1, that's PL1, price level 1. Okay, now if there's an increase in interest rates, a rise in interest rates, that's going to cause savings to increase, so decrease the value of consumption, and it's also going to make the cost of borrowing higher, which is going to decrease investment. So what we should see is an inward shift of aggregate demand to AD2 as both consumption and investment fall as a component, and we move to PL2 and Y2. And you don't need to do anything else other than that. You're not going to get marks for arrows. So that. All right, question 3. United States current account of the balance of payments 1993 to 2015. Calculate the percentage change in the United States current account deficit on the balance of payments between 1998 and 2006. Okay, so 1998 is minus 200 and 2006 is minus 800. So I got minus 200 and minus 800. So when I'm calculating this, percentage change is new minus old divided by old times 100. Okay, this is my new value because it's just a more recent date, and this is my old value. So if I plug that into my calculator, I would do minus 800 minus, careful now, minus 200 divided by minus 200 times 100. Okay, new minus 800 minus old minus 200 divided by old minus 200 times 100. A lot of hundreds going on there. And if you type that into your calculator, you should get a 300% change. Okay, so that is the percentage change. Now, it is obviously, that's going to be minus 600 divided by minus 200, so it is a 300% change. Explain the term current account of the balance of payments. Okay, current account is really just looking at the difference in the value of exports and imports. Okay, so the current account is the difference in value between exports and imports. The key point, the key word there is value, not quantity, but value. So it's X minus M, and you're looking at the value. Using the chart on page 6, which one of the following may be inferred about the United States balance of payments? The current account deficit decreased between 2001 and 2006. Okay, so 2001 is there, 2006 is there. So it says the current account deficit decreased. No, it increased. As in it got to a more negative number than it was previously. The current account surplus increased. Well, no. Again, it's a negative. If anything, the deficit increased. There was a current account deficit for the entire period shown, or there was a current account surplus for the entire period. Sorry, and it would be 100, 200, 300, and the value would go up from here like that. And there would always be a positive value. It doesn't matter how close it would get as long as it's above that value. But because it's always below, then I know that the whole period there was a current account deficit, as in the value of M imports is greater than the value of exports. There we go. Okay, the UK experienced a budget deficit. The UK has experienced a budget deficit since 2001. The government aimed to reach a budget surplus by 2019, but in 2016, this target was abandoned. Okay, budget deficit. The key point to understand about budget deficit is that it is when the government spending is greater, the value of this government spending is greater than the value of tax receipts. Okay, so that's things like income tax, VAT, corporation tax. So explain one reason why the 2019 budget surplus target was abandoned. Well, one thing that you might mention is about tax receipts, for example, and the fact that UK economy slowed down significantly in 2008 as a result of the financial crisis, and therefore the value of tax receipts would obviously fall at the same rate, or not fall at the same rate, but also fall at the same time, and therefore it would be very unlikely that they would end up with tax receipts being greater than government spending because of the things that they have to spend money on, like welfare payments. And the government most likely is going to have to borrow quite significant sums of money in order to facilitate all the spending it needs to do. So explain one likely reason. Well, one likely reason may be the slowdown in economic growth in the UK, which decreased tax revenue and increased government spending on the welfare state. Good. Okay, explain the likely impact of abandoning the budget surplus target on the UK national debt. Fine. National debt is basically the measured time. Okay, so it's the sum of this. So if they abandon the budget surplus target, then the size of national debt will increase because they will have a budget deficit each time, which will make the national debt greater in value. So if okay, so the government will be forced to borrow more through facilitating that increase in expenditure or the expenditure that's greater than the value of their tax receipts. They do that by issuing bonds, but they have to pay that back, the sum that they've borrowed, with interest, and so it will increase the value of national debt. Okay, if a government takes decisions to target a budget surplus, this is an example of, okay, contractionary monetary policy is wrong. We don't care about monetary policy. It's all about fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy is when you lower taxes and increase government spending. It's likely to lead to a budget deficit as opposed to a surplus, but that's not entirely relevant. The relevance is this word discretionary. It means that they're making an active decision to target something, aka in this case a budget surplus. All right, question 5, which I believe is the last question. So UK total bank lending to individuals percentage change on previous year. Explain one likely reason why consumer demand for bank loans has increased. Okay, there are a couple of things I could think of. Maybe the first one is a fall in interest rates, which makes it cheaper to borrow, or an increase in consumer confidence, which means that individuals feel like, or households feel like, they're more likely to be able to pay back any amount that they borrow. So I'm going to go with the second point. So one, why bank loans? Now, the key thing here is that you explain why the increase in consumer confidence, as an example, is why the demand for bank loans has increased. So my point is that because consumer confidence has increased, households or consumers will feel like they're going to be more easily able to pay back, or they're very confident they're going to be able to pay back any of the loans that they take out. Okay. Now again, this is quite a lot of writing. You don't necessarily need to do that much. You could have done the interest rate point as well. Basically, that decreased interest rates means that there is a lower decrease in the cost of borrowing, which means that it may be easier for households to buy things which require bank loans, like houses, cars, etc. Which one of the following is most likely to result from an increase in bank lending to individuals? An improvement in net trade, that's not likely in the UK, but also just not likely generally because the UK has a high NPM. An increase in unemployment, well, unlikely because labour is a form of derived demand, which means that if there's an increase in consumption through that bank lending, that there's going to be an increase in the demand for labour in the sectors where that spending has taken place. Deflation, also highly unlikely because it's going to potentially have demand pull inflationary pressures as a result of the increase in AD caused by the increase in consumption. That change in the price level As you can see there, I've drawn like a rough sketch, but that change in the price level is going to lead to some form of inflationary pressure. So an increase in consumption is the most likely thing, because the reason why these households are borrowing money is to spend it on some given object, whatever they want to spend it on. Okay, calculate the index number for the total value of bank lending in 2016 using 2015 as a base year. All right, so if 2015 is the base year, then the index for that year is 100. 2006. Now, some people make the mistake of trying to work out the difference between 3.2% and 4%. Do not do that. That is not what you need to do here. Instead, what you need to do is assume that we just get rid of this. Get rid of this, sorry, 3.2%. We don't really care about that. This is 100. And it says between 2015 and 2016 that demand increases by 4%. 4% greater than 100 is 104, which is our index number. So 2016, the index number is 104. All right, and that's finished. That's the 25 marks for section A. Section B, as you can see here, is a longer section. You're advised to spend 1 hour, so it's twice the amount of time you get for section A. And I hope that this has been useful. If you have enjoyed it, give it a like, whatever. And I'm going to upload more videos in the future just because I enjoy making them, and hopefully you find them useful. And any questions, let me know. Thank you very much. Take care.